This episode of Around the Layout is brought to you by Home Shops, the freelance model railroad specialists. Visit homeshops.net to see their latest limited edition offerings, including the Virginian and Ohio company service tank cars and the just arrived GSC 86-foot tangent box cars, available in 7 freelance road names. Keep up with all of the new offerings by joining the Home Shops Facebook group and signing up for general shop bulletins at homeshops.net. I have received a sneak peek, and you don't want to miss what's next from Home Shops. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Around the Layout, where model railroaders come to tell their story. My name is Ray Arnott. So glad you could join us. It's time to find out what's happening in model railroading, and to do that, I'm joined by the editor of Model Railroad News, Tony Cook. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ray, thanks for having me back. It's been a while. How you been doing?
I've been doing great. It's good to have you back here and catching up with you a little bit offline. It's been a little bit, but glad to see you back on the show here. And I'm really excited about what we've got happening here with the What's Happening in Model Railroading segment.
It is. This is a good show. I listened to it. I the last one I think you did, you had Michelle Kempema on. And then before that, I listened with Tim Blackwell from Cowcatcher, both folks I know, and good shows. And I really liked your show from, was it April 1st with, I forget now who had your role, and you were the guest. That was a fun show.
That was Joe Mammy, who came in and sat in the host seat, and we had a really good time with that. It was actually his brainchild, and we had a blast. And it was fun to kind of not be the host and just be a guest and get to talk about my model railroading journey and share that with the folks. So yeah, it was a great time. I
have to ask you one question about that show, though.
Go ahead.
Do you still have that Tyco Chattanooga train set that got you started in the hobby?
I do.
Wow. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed.
I tried to get them to put, they had the rubber tires, and I have a spare set of rubber tires for it. She just won't go anymore, but it looks great on a shelf. I've got it all set away. So eventually I will put a shelf up here in the office. Maybe I'll put it within camera view too. And, awesome. That got me started in the hobby. And
a lot of folks that and the Spirit of 76 sets. Right. I mean, you would not believe the people that was my first train set. Absolutely. And I hear that over and over again. And our subject today, we're going to talk about what's happening, but we have got somebody, a good friend of mine, and I know a good friend of you. In fact, he did a show with you that I listened to recently.
Absolutely. Let's bring him in. Jim Wiggin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tony and Ray. Thanks for having me on board. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, doing really well. It's exciting for Ray and I to get to visit with you today and talk about the new Athearn website. You know, Jim, I don't like my website. I'm sure Ray doesn't like his website. When I say website, it's my modeltrainresource.com that I'm getting my old hobby history sites back up. I get frustrated even with our White River Productions websites. No one ever likes their website. And I hear this from hobby shops, manufacturers. Oh my gosh, the back end was supposed to do this and it doesn't do that. And they promised us this and they can't make it happen. And Jim, this is why I wanted to talk to Jim today, Ray. Right. And you need to introduce, we always jump into these things. I think, we know who you are. And you know me, that I'm the editor of Model Railroad News Monthly for White River Productions and HO Collector Quarterly and Diesel Era Quarterly for White River. And Jim, of course, is...
Well, I am the associate brand manager of Athearn Model Trains. And if you haven't heard of me, you probably have not caught Train Tuesday, which happens, ironically enough, every Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time.
Excellent title.
And there's no ambiguity there.
No.
And of course, I've done some Athearn extras with you, Tony.
Always enjoy those.
That's fun, as I told Ray in your podcast, it was about a month ago, I think now. I am a professional kitten herder. I herd all kinds of kittens. It's a marketing role, so I do everything from shows to work with White River on ads for magazine placement, all of that kind of stuff. And ironically enough, websites, as we kind of started talking about.
And how did that come up? I mean, as I say, everybody's always, it's almost like a model layout. I built it. I don't like it. I'm going to tear it down and start over. Websites are the same thing. That's what I'm doing with Model Train Resource. It used to be the HO Scale Collector. And the new Athearn site has been up for a couple months now. And I wanted to give that time to, Ray and I talked about this a bit ago. I said, let's let them get it up and running, see how it's going, and kind of take us through that process of when did you decide, okay, this I'm not tinkering with, shut the hood, we're taking this car in and I'm trading it, I'm getting something else.
We knew the car talk was coming.
Yeah,
He wiggled that right in there.
Yeah, it's always a good analogy. So to answer your question, guys, we knew, when I came on board with Athearn back in 2020, we knew that we were dealing with a jalopy. The original Athearn website was quite old. In fact, if you saw the backdoor mechanics of it, it was pre-Y2K. So for the audience out there that was born after 2001, that was an old way of doing things. The old HTML code, WYSIWYG, all of that kind of stuff. And our web team that we have at Horizon, we are very fortunate to have a very talented crew. And so they spent as much time as they could massaging that website, and to the point where the last three or 4 months of 2022, I was helping them. And it was a lot of duct tape, a lot of Bondo, a lot of hope and a prayer sometimes. And, I'm not going to lie. People could see that the website was on hard times. Trying to find products would just disappear. And so we finally, as a group, came together, and Horizon said, you know what? We're going through all of our websites of our brands, and Athearn is a great performer for Horizon. Horizon's always been very happy with Athearn. And they said, you know what? We're going to get you guys a website that will allow you to do more. And so they did. And that started just before Christmas in 2022. And they said, you know what? We're putting a date on it. After this date, the old website is taken out to the pasture, and the new website's going to take over.
Now, the new one, it has been on since maybe February of 2023?
We came on at just the end of March, just before I went to the Denver show. Oh,
okay. And yeah, the one before, when you talk about products disappearing, I think it was something in scale. And I remember getting emails of, Athearn doesn't do enough in scale. And, it's not even on their website. I'm like, yeah, it is. If you go here, it's just the menu's not right anymore. And here's the link, and you're just got to look for it. And yeah, again, that website stuff is frustrating. The thing I think I love the most about the new website is the announcement archive that you put together, because that's one of those things I'm always looking back at, whether I'm looking at a new model or trying to remember when was this announced. And you had some of that before, but the new version of it is really awesome. That I like it a lot.
Yeah, two things. You remember it's been a little over a year now. We did our big rebranding where we simplified our brands. And that was the biggest hurdle for the old website. That took months of myself and the web development team to get that in gear. And as you've noted, N-Scale just disappeared.
Yeah.
And I mean, the hate mail that I got for that. And, the ironic thing is, and you and Shane Mason know this, I'm a hardcore N-Scale guy.
Yeah.
John Stackpole, our lead developer, hardcore N-Scale guy. And it's like, guys, I kind of felt like Scotty, Kirk's asking for Warp 9 and I've got nothing.
Yeah.
And so we finally were able to get it back. It took a lot of, for anybody that's into working with websites, if you remember what website building was like before 2000, you'll know that it isn't as simple as just moving and cutting and pasting. It's a bunch of code and everything else. And somehow the real Scotty, Brett, who's the head of our web development, got that thing together, and it finally came on board. And that was a good example. Another good example was the archives. Somebody like yourself, Tony, with HO Collector, that archive is valuable information. And that's also true of our dealers and also our customers. Customers want to know, hey, I just saw a really good deal on a MKT GP38-2. Let's see, this has Tsunami in it, not Tsunami 2. When did they announce that? And they can find it now. So a little bit easier than just showing about a year's worth of archival information.
Yeah, that last 20 years of all the more modern Athearn stuff. Again, as you say, somebody will buy this and go, I have a road number, or didn't they do other road numbers, or when did they do that? And was this the same scheme? That's incredibly helpful to have that available.
Absolutely. And another thing that I use it for personally is, nowadays, all the major model manufacturers, we have a pre-order date. And it's, here I am marketing, and I don't remember this stuff, but, for my own personal layouts, both HO and N scale, I'll be like, oh, you know what? We came out with this covered hopper, and I need something for the bakery on the Athearn layout. So I need something that's going to be food process type stuff. And so I'll go back to the archive, and that archival information is there. Otherwise, I risk purchasing a covered hopper that was made for aggregate versus flour. So that's what a lot of our guys use that for. And, quite frankly, after a year, you tend to forget what freight cars are for what on your layout. So it's a good reminder before we purchase our products.
Yeah, and also a good written website also becomes not only an external resource, but you're talking internal resource as well for you at Athearn, and probably helps you get a lot of that information centralized. Absolutely. I mean, our developers use it on a daily basis. If we're going to do another run of a certain railroad, say locomotives, we don't want to introduce the same road numbers that we did before, unless it's a special run like a heritage unit or something of that nature. But, for general freight and passenger, if we're going to do, let's say, Illinois terminal locomotives, we want to make sure that we offer new road numbers. And that does two things. One, it allows the folks that were not able to purchase them the original run to purchase them. And it also allows the customers that purchased the original run to add to their fleet.
I was going to ask too, you've got the different menu headings across the top of the page, and Athearn does sell direct as well, right? I don't know that everyone realizes that. If you're looking for something, that I see the shop icon, and I know that's there, and maintenance is there too, which I know you guys get hit with parts and requests of that type. And so if you would tell us a little bit about the different menu selections across the top of the new website.
Absolutely. So if you're listening to us now and you go to athearn.com, the address hasn't changed. We built a new house. The first thing you're going to have is a prompt, and that prompt is to sign up for our email newsletter. Now, the email newsletter with this new website is going to be more than just a monthly newsletter that shows the new announcements. I'm really excited about this. As time goes on, as we get caught up, you're also going to get some other information too. So if you're interested about what's going on at Athearn, sign up for that. Just put your email address in there. You'll get a confirmation saying thank you for signing up for the Athearn newsletter. And anytime something new comes up, you're going to get an email. In fact, I got my email yesterday afternoon about all of the new announcements for April. So that's the first thing that you're going to see.
And I like getting those, even though you've already probably shared them with me. I will get that and go, oh, and it usually always takes me back to, I meant to ask about this, or I need to check on that. But yeah, that is very helpful to have those. Yeah, I got mine yesterday afternoon too.
It really is. And I use it for myself. I've signed up on my personal email, so I get it on my phone, and that way I've got another source of data because we all know, we're all modelers here. So if I go to the club or if I go somewhere rail fanning and I bump into somebody, hey, didn't you guys announce such and such this month? I can actually look at my email and be like, yeah, this is what you're looking for. This is where you can order it. So once you've done that, that little pop-up will disappear. You have the option of saying no if you wish, but if you want to stay on top of everything at Athearn, you can definitely sign up for that. But yeah, you've got a banner up here, and briefly, you've got the shop. When you just hover over the shop, you can shop by scale, N scale or HO. You can shop by brand, which is the Genesis, Athearn, or Roundhouse. And of course, we've included McHenry because McHenry is a big part of Athearn. Here's something that's new. It's by era. By era was one of the most requested things that we'd add to our website. And you've got about a 20-year span per era here that really fits what most people are modeling. So for myself, Tony knows this. I'm an avid Boston and Maine modeler. I model 1975 New Hampshire and Massachusetts. So I would select the 1971 to 1990 era. You can also search by type. You can search by steam, diesel, passenger, freight. You can also just look for vehicles and containers. And then, of course, couplers. Now, one thing I do want to let everybody know, there was a refinement that we are still working on. A lot of folks said, hey, you know what? The website's great, but my biggest complaint is the old website let me select by model type. So if I'm looking for a GP7 or a GP38-2, I got to search for it. And you can type that in there. Our database is pretty good. But we are going to be bringing that back. So if that's a complaint that you've had personally, it has not gone unheard. We are actually working on adding that. So that will be another filter that you guys can shop by, is by actual type of locomotive, boxcar, freight car, what have you.
I like that a lot. Yeah, that is the era thing though. And we've talked about this, Jim. I know that in like European stuff, they have like that era 1, era 2. And I've had people send me emails for that. And I think I've shared with you before of, this is so cool that they map this out. Why is this not done in North American railroading? Why can you not go, this is an era 3 and I know what you're talking about? And I think this is a great step, adding the era thing. And I'm thrilled. That was you've already answered my number one question, because I will hit freight cars like I just did last night on that new Genesis N-scale tank car. And it's like, what is that one again? And it's like a 13,000 gallon acid tank car that's coming to the Genesis line in N-scale. But I hit that and hit freight cars. I'm like, oh, no, I wanted to kind of see that. Give me the whole menu. Don't they make a 50-foot whatever? And I enjoyed seeing that, or being able to filter that. So that's awesome that that's coming back.
Yeah, one of my big things with websites is seeing, the search engines, whether it be a manufacturer or even hobby shops. And it's so great. Hopefully this starts a trend with other vendors, hobby shops online, because it is nice to be able to have these search criterias and having not only the type, like you said, but being able to narrow it down. Does this car really fit my era? And being able to answer that question on your website is a huge resource.
Mm-hmm. Very much really requested. Is. Yeah.
What we're hoping to do is, if you go by type and you see steam, diesel, passenger, and things of that nature, you will be taken to a landing page. And that landing page, say we select diesel, you'll see all the popular diesels populate that page. But at the top, there'll be links. And those links will say GP7, GP9, and so on. Very similar to what we call the legacy website, the website that we replaced. But one of the things I do want to mention is, before we went into this website, all of us had taken notes about what we'd like to see different on the old website. And we held meetings internally, and we also asked people. We asked our customers, what would you like to see on a website? So this is a very driven model railroad website. It's not like the other Horizon websites. So our guys had to do a little bit different work than what they're accustomed to.
I do like the big pictures came back. Like, I'm looking at your recent Genesis 2.0 SD70M-2s, and the model pictures now, you can blow them up, hit it and then make them larger, because that was another thing I would get emails. Well, you used to be able to do that, or I want to look at this because there's so much detail on them. And either if it's an illustration, that always frustrates some of the guys, and which, believe me, I know on taking pictures, it's like, oh yeah, it would be great if we had pictures of every single thing as it comes out, but you wouldn't believe the pile of models I've got to unbox and shoot pictures of. And I know that you're involved in that for the company, so that's a lot of work. But it is great to have those pictures as a reference, because again, these, with the reservation process and how they show up, what's supposed to be, but you don't always get to see them, that they sell out so quick. And so again, the website and these kind of things, like Model Railroad News, some of those, that's where you get to see it sometimes. So it's important to have that. And I appreciate seeing that back.
Yeah, absolutely. We are fortunate enough to have a photographer on staff. His name is Rory, and he is a professional photographer. He actually had his own studio at one time, and he has done a really great job of doing the model photography for us that you see on the front page. He's very detail oriented, so he and I worked together and accomplished that. And like you said, that was another one of those aspects that we lost with the old website. You could not blow up anymore. It just kind of one of those things on the old car that broke that we couldn't replace.
And then over in the maintenance department, this is another one that I get. In fact, I get emails. Have you got the exploded parts diagram for this or that? And it's like, let me go look, and I'll try to scan it and get that. And I see under maintenance, when you hit that or when you hover over that tab now, there's Athearn product support, product repairs and service center, and then instruction manuals and downloads, which I think that's awesome. And
that's a work in progress, actually. We definitely at some point want to have a point where we can have somebody that's asked a question like you just said, hey, I've got this, Genesis GP38-2 and I've lost, my dog ate the instructions or what have you. They can go down and they can not only view it, but they can download the PDF. That is something that is staged right now. It's not actually there, but in the future, that will be something that will be populating slowly over the next few years.
That will be really handy. The biggest question I have there is, how do I get into this? And so, a lot of them, and I run into that at times too, of just either manufacturers do or don't include that in the instructions, or something's revised over the years. And I can't remember who I ran into that recently, but it had basically like, take the couplers out and the shell comes off. It's like, but they've added screws here around the fuel tanks now. And it's like, so you're going to, come off. What is the problem here? I've done exactly what they said. And I remember emailing that person saying, that is correct, but the new run has got screws on each caddy corner of the fuel tank. And he's like, oh my gosh, thanks for letting me know. I was just about ready to destroy the shell. So again, those kind of things are invaluable as far as I need to fix something or I want to put a decoder in this or whatever, and doggone it, I don't know how to get in there.
Absolutely, because we do running changes on our models like any manufacturer. We're always going to strive to make a better product. And so a good case in point, GP15s, we announced those last May, and from the previous run, now they have lighting features that we didn't have in the original run. So there's going to be some differences. And so that will be something that will get downloaded and reference to that. And yeah, of course, if you're going to be doing some of your own maintenance on something like that, you're going to want to know the revisions. And this is an excellent point to be made.
Now on that main page too, that's always one of the other questions I get is what events are coming up. And I see you have an event calendar if you go to just the main athearn.com and scroll down. Mm-hmm. And I love the links to the videos to see like your Train Tuesdays and the extras, that you can find those and link to those directly. That, again, so much of that being right on the homepage, that's really sweet.
That was another thing that our fans had asked for. It's really easy nowadays to say, hey, go to our YouTube channel and check out what's going on. But let's face it, whether it's White River, whether it's Model Railroad News or Athearn, that is kind of the starting point for all information. So most people have been conditioned over the last few years. It's like, if I want to know information about Athearn, I'm going to go to athearn.com. That is the mother road. That's the source. And so one of the first things that we did was we added the Athearn event calendar, which is a great way for anybody to see, okay, Athearn's going to be on the road. Where are they going next? Oh, they're going to be at the Rocky Mountain Train Show in April, or they're going to be at the Nationals in Texas coming up this August. That gives them a chance to look at, make plans to go to that event. The other thing, too, is like you said, we've got all of our videos right there on the homepage. So if they've missed a live stream, they can go back and look at it. But we've also added videos that are not just live stream, but we've got some videos about locomotive maintenance or how to do tips and techniques on your locomotive.
Like I think they make a SD whatever that we'll see it. So in general, you think you're happy with where it's at?
I'm going to be a little bit biased because I spent 3.5 months of my life. And you know this, Tony, I was basically under a rock for 3.5 months helping development with this website. So I put a lot of my heart and soul in it. And I've always jokingly said that a genius lives in a vacuum. I'm pretty happy with it. That being said, though, what I'm more happy about is to hear the feedback from the customers, because at the end of the day, my boss is the customer. And if the customer is frustrated with some aspect of our website, I want to hear about it. We had a really good example at the Rocky Mountain Train Show. I had a really nice gentleman stop by the booth and say, hey, congratulations on the new website. I saw the live stream on that. It's a beautifully well done website, but I've got one complaint. And I hate to complain. And I said, no, sir, I need to hear what's bothering you, because if it's bothering you, chances are there's at least another 100 guys like you with the same problem. So let's talk about it. And, he told me what it was, and it was actually what we talked about just recently, looking for a locomotive type or freight car type. And I said, I appreciate your feedback. And these are things that can be easily changed. And this website, for the most part, is something that we can fine tune. There are refinements that we're working on right now that will change. So much like a model railroad layout, it's never completely done. It will always be something that we can update and add on. But to answer, I know that was a long way around the question, but to answer your question, yeah, I'm really happy with the website. I'm very excited about the website, and I'm really hoping it's a good tool to be used by our customers.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's, and Ray, I assume you've spun around the website several times too, and I'm really pleased with where they're going with this.
Absolutely. This is an excellent foundation, and you've done a great job of getting things up to date, modernized, and making it easy to use. Always important. All the call to action stuff's right at the top, so it makes it nice and easy to use. So you've got an outstanding foundation for a website here. Excellent job.
Well, thank you, Ray and Tony. I can't take all the credit for it. Behind me was a development team by Horizon. There was probably more than 24 folks working on this at any one time in that 3.5 months. Again, a huge thank you to the Horizon product development team and the web development team to make this happen. They essentially took my ideas, the ideas of my coworkers, and the ideas of our customers, and made it into what you see here. I had the easy work of just kind of giving them stories and pictures and things like that. They did the real heavy labor. So thank you. I appreciate your kind comments on our website.
That is, as Jim mentioned, they built a new house, but it's at the same address. Athearn.com is the place to go to check out the new website for all things Athearn, including N-Scale.
N-Scale.
Which has not fallen off the map.
It has not fallen off the map. No, we do N-Scale. I mean, it's a scale that's gaining popularity. So, of course we're going to look at it, and we're going to continue to be doing some new Athearn N-Scale Genesis and N-Scale Athearn. So keep an eye out.
Awesome stuff. I really appreciate the time, Jim. It's always fun to visit with you. I know this is a Saturday that we're recording this, so I'm sure you've got some project work to do on that Ford Falcon of yours, don't you?
I do. I've got some exhaust work I got to do it because the Falcon Nationals are coming up in July, actually in your neck of the woods.
Oh, yeah?
Kansas City. So,
well, I'll see it. When is that? Is July? That's gotta be...
That is right after the Spring Creek show. So I think it's the end of July. So,
how awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you in Kansas City and seeing that car then. Awesome. What year is that? It's a 65?
65, yes, sir.
Yeah. Wow. Sweet. Yeah. Very cool.
So you'll be seeing Tony and Jim cruising around the Kansas City, Missouri area here pretty soon. That'll be a sight to be seen. We'll have to definitely get a picture of that. So, Jim, thanks for stopping by.
Ray, thanks for having me on board. Tony, nice talking with you yet again.
Well, Tony, we learned a whole lot about that Athearn website, and I'm really impressed by the work they've done. What do you think?
I was really excited by it. I knew they were working on it, as Jim had mentioned to us when we talked to him, that, from basically the holidays in late 2022 on, it was, man, I am so busy. I got an answer for that question, but I'm knee deep in the website project. And so, it was fun to get to see it unveiled recently. And I think they're in a really good, positive direction for it. And so important these days to have a solid website.
For sure. And I'm sure it ends up being a great resource for you for for the news and announcements. And speaking of, let's talk about what's new in the model railroad industry. What do you got?
We've got all kinds of stuff, as we always do. I don't know how, what, or why, but it seems like the train supply. I was talking with the guys at Spring Creek Model Trains in Nebraska in the last week or so, and they said the same thing, that, man, it is almost just a blur, the amount of product that just keeps rolling out. And it really is, that it's an incredible amount of stuff we have. And speaking of Athearn, I wanted to start off that SD60E was announced in this recent group of April announcements. And I think the one thing, and this has got a kind of a double-edged thing. They're doing the Norfolk Southerns that are prototype, and this is in HO scale. This is a new Genesis. And in those, they also are doing the Honoring the Veterans special paint, which I think they did that before. So this was just a rerun of it. But the other one, the other group, is the Legendary Liveries. And I know you follow social media a lot and look at the different posts from folks. And man, it's controversial, especially when you get up to the higher level, like these Genesis models. Some of these guys just get downright, angry about, why are you doing this when you haven't done every single road name of the prototype yet? And the Legendary Livery Group, this one too, they're doing a red, the Coast Guard theme, Central and New Jersey. They're doing a black and gold Monon, and then they're doing a maroon Norfolk and Western, which is, Norfolk and Western in the mid to late 70s kind of played around with paint schemes for a bit and had that skunk one with the white stripe or the white band horizontally running around units. And then there was, I think their big GE U-boats had this maroon with the gold NW on it. And they're doing those as fantasy paints. I'm excited by them. As a collector, I love that kind of stuff. And I think for the folks that kind of get bent out of shape on it, you got to remember, like an SD60E, to tool that up and produce it, the cost of it is such that if you want to see those kind of models offered on a regular basis, so you get your prototype Norfolk Southern power, you got to have folks like me. They're going to buy all three of those Legendary Liveries that I'm helping to subsidize your NS prototypes that I might not otherwise be interested in buying. So I get it. I see the, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Why are you doing this? But you need to also remember, but that's also how and why you're getting, some of the stuff that you are getting is because that they're able to amortize that tooling and make some things that otherwise you wouldn't. Because especially with newer prototypes, what are you going to paint it? There's only a handful of class ones. I mean, fortunately, we have all these heritage schemes that help fortify some of those, but that's generally GEVOs and ACEs. Yep. So,
you gotta remember it's a business, right? And there's got to be, it has to turn a profit. That's just how it works. There's no, this isn't a nonprofit organization that Athearn's running, and nor any of these manufacturers. So this is how it's done, and. I think it's fun, the what if kind of stuff. What if they did this? What it would look like, and I think it's a really neat niche kind of thing too. To the hobby is the what if, and free. We got a lot of freelancers out there, and this kind of ties along with it.
Well, and the thing I appreciate on the Athearn efforts, and like Broadway Limited has done it with theirs, like the new run of GP20s, they did like a lightning stripe New York Central. They did, I think, Santa Fe in the zebra stripe, and then a CB&Q in the black scheme, all of which were just a bit too old that the Jeep 20s for those railroads never got those paints. Like, of course, the Burlingtons were Chinese red, and it was bookends blue for the Jeep 20s on Santa Fe. But again, it's so close. Like, well, yeah, if those had been out a couple years sooner, or if they hadn't have changed their paint, this has real potential. And it's the same on the Genesis Legendary Liveries that they do. They go with a, this makes some sense. It is not that traditional toy train thing of, let's just paint everything red and silver Santa Fe war bonnet, because everybody likes that. It's like, well, okay, let's put some reason and logic to it. What if this was? What features would they have? And they go with that. The new announcement of tunnel motors has Burlington Northern. And when you think about it in the Western roads, BN is somebody that could have bought tunnel motors, and they're detailing them to be like, this is what a BN tunnel motor might have been like. So again, I get kind of the outrage of, I want it to be absolutely perfect. This is what the prototype is. Don't deviate. I see that, but then I think that there certainly is a market for it. That I know, like Broadway Limited's folks had told me before, oh, we got told never do, it has to be prototype. Don't ever deviate from that. And then when they did start introducing those, they said we were just blown away at how well they sold. Yeah. So it's like, sorry, but yeah, when we did experiment with it, they sold amazingly well. So yeah, it's a plus and minus. I get it.
I'm all for new ideas in this hobby, and this being a new idea, I really like it. And hey, again, you choose not to put it on your railroad. That's exactly what you should do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the pre-orders on those SD60Es are late the end of this month. So by the time the show comes out, you'll have probably a little more than a week or so. And those are due in August of 2024, which I have noted that it seems like we're getting a little better on that between, COVID and some of the supply things of a couple years ago. Wow, there's models that, were announced when I was a little kid that I'm still waiting for, it seems like.
Yeah.
And we're catching up to a lot of that. So I think some of these dates are a lot better. When we were talking to Jim, we mentioned that 13,600 gallon acid tank car, and that is due this fall. That's supposed to be a November release from Athearn. And I think that's the first all new tooled, in scale model for the Genesis line. I'm very excited. There's new coupler designs. There's several innovations to it. It's not going to be, just, well, yeah, it's got more detail. It's Genesis. There's a lot to this car. I'm very excited to see it roll out.
When I see this car, I think of potential switching operations on an N scale layout. You get you can get a 3-pack of them. I see listed on their website. They're listing them at $124.99 for the one that I'm looking at here. That's a great switching opportunity. If you can get a couple of those and set yourself up an industry that's receiving these acid tank cars, you've got yourself a couple hours of good switching on a layout.
Absolutely. And that's one thing and I'm sure you've seen that too. N-Scale has been moving in leaps and bounds.
Sure.
In the last dozen or so years with respect to detail, that kind of thing. But the big thing I've been seeing is the ride height, body mounted couplers, things that were just kind of a given of, well, yeah, it's in scale. So it does have truck mounted couplers, but that's okay. Cause they basically do, as you say, for switching and stuff, that can be a real frustration. And I know a lot of hobbyists that was always one of the first things that, well, I got to turn this into, so I got to change the couplers and the trucks to make it body mounted. And these are, and quite a few other companies, I noticed that body mounted on N-Scale is kind of no longer that, oh, wow, that's interesting. It's like, it's becoming more and more kind of the standard.
Nice. Yeah. You see a lot more. I think it's part of the revolution of the hobby. We talk about shelf layouts, and I think also ties into that, the growth of N-Scale. As folks are finding they have less space in their living, and this minimalist idea starts to kind of gain strength, and people are finding new ways to get involved in the hobby, and a stronger N scale is certainly a part of that equation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it is growing quite a bit. The last Athearn piece I wanted to hit was the Athearn Roundhouse F7s, which I know you've heard about. That they retooled the A unit of the classic Globe tooling. Right. And there is a new announcement of those. There's 2 production runs that are due this year in 2023. And then they just announced another group for August 2024 release, again with pre-order cutoff of April 28th. And there's a slew of A units there, both single and dual headlights. Again, this is a starter model, and undecorateds will be available in both single and dual headlight. And pricing on it, the undecorated is $124.99. And again, that's everyone's tending to look for a canvas at times if I'd like to do some painting or do some custom modeling. And this newly tooled F7 is one I've had a lot of feedback on, people asking questions about it and eager to see what it's going to be like. And this new group has, of course, some of the classic road names, Santa Fe, SP, UP, but then again, those undecorateds are ones to look at. And if you're interested in that especially, undecorated's always one. Get orders in for those, because a lot of times hobby companies are putting those out there to see the response. So right. They can be a little bit challenging to find out in the wild. So if that is, yeah, I'm interested, but I'll wait. It might be an idea to make sure you have one reserved on the undecks for those.
Absolutely. So if you're looking for, that era, which is 1950s and up, the F units, and boy, they're still around, museums. So that undecorated definitely gives you a lot of opportunity to create, like you said, a blank canvas.
Could be an excursion road for a contemporary layout that you
There
could
you
have it with a couple passenger cars. So yeah,
Absolutely.
fun piece. I have not seen them yet, but Bachmann has an all-new HO scale 55-foot steel coil car. I have them on the way, and we'll be reviewing them in Model Railroad News. But I'm excited to see this. This is a new addition to the Silver Series HO line. It does have the coiled steel loads in the bed, and then the two rounded hoods are removable from the car.
Nice.
Looks to be a very nicely done piece. Bachmann's good for offering entry level, for both locomotives, train sets, freight cars. And this one I'm excited to see. The first group are landing now, and there's a couple more road names following. I think BNSF with the wedge logo, CSX, Norfolk Southern, and an aluminum UP, which I tend to see a lot of those in my areas. But those are coming out. And Bachmann, I always get people say, oh my gosh, they're asking $72 for that. You have to remember, Bachmann especially look for discounts, look for, what your hobby shop sells them at, that the MSRP, there's different markups on different product lines in the hobby. So don't be, scared off or something by that I always try to, and I mention that in reviews. And, everybody has different ways they have that set up, whether it's like Scale Trains or Exact Rail selling direct, and they've got a retail price and their selling price, and it's like that. There's a lot to it. So if you're not familiar on that, take a look at hobby dealers, mail order places, and see what they're selling for. And again, that new coil steel car, and those are always popular. I think this is one that, looking at it, I have not seen samples of it yet, but I think it's kind of that 1970s, 80s or so, and probably, an Evans-ish prototype. So I'm eager to see it and see how it looks.
And remember, with the MSRP, when you look at that, you're also getting the load with it. You don't have to purchase that separately. You're getting that additional bonus along with it. Yeah,
those are, and it looks like there's a lot of extra detail to it as well. The hoods have got the lift areas and that kind of thing to them as well.
Sure.
What's the era that you model?
I'm modeling the modern era, so.
Yeah. And those are still around. Yeah, again, that style, I see those, and they're painted for that, so.
I see a lot of these double hoods. I see a lot of single hoods. So a lot of these coil cars still making their way around.
There's such a flood of these new coil cars. I've been shooting pictures right and left of those. Like Athearn has announced that newest coil car from whoever. There's like those low hood and slightly taller hood, and there's some that are a little bit longer. Every time I seem to picture one and think, oh, this must be the Athearn model. It's not. I'll get home, look at it. Yeah, it's something different. So again, coil cars are kind of going through another innovation. And some of the looks are those, they're much more, they almost look like a loaf of bread or something now. Is those newer ones with the big single hoods. And yeah, those are interesting cars.
Absolutely.
We'll move over here to Broadway Limited, SD40s. And this I always feel like is one of the underserved prototypes of EMD's 1966 group of releases that, going back to when it was new, in the Athearn Blue Box days, they picked out the SDP 40. So it had the flat back end with the steam generator. Like, oh, it's a shame they didn't do an SD 40. And we've always had kind of there was the AHM Mahano from about 1980. Cato did an excellent one in the early 90s. But the SD 40 always seems like it's I feel like there's always room for more. And Broadway Limited has an all-new tooled SD40 that's arriving now. I'd heard word from them this week on samples of those on the way. And this is interesting, too, in that responding to buyer requests, this will be their first HO locomotive to come in both Paragon 4 with DCC and sound and Stealth, which will be no sound and DCC ready. So that's coming back into their line. It's been many years since Broadway offered that as an option. And I know for many that was, well, I'd buy those, but I want to change it to the sound system or DCC I use. So I don't want to pay that, just have to gut it and change it. So this is an interesting thing to see them doing. And all of these are road accurate, even to the Canadian ones, the CN and CPs. will have like the bell hanging between the number boards over the windshield, the single headlight in the back. There's high hoods for like Southern, dynamic brake, non-dynamic brake. SPs have the light package. So road accurate detailing across all of these. And boy, Broadway has just been really on a tear lately with that Jeep 20, this SD40. They've got a Jeep 30 and a 35 coming. The SD45 has already come out. I mean, they literally are hitting EMD's 1960s and later greatest hits with model after model. So check those out. Those SD40s in HO are all new. Again, there's the DC version as well as the DCC version.
And undecorated available as well. They're calling it unpainted, but yeah, that's available as well. So that's great.
Jacksonville Terminal Company. I don't like them, and I'm going to tell you why I don't like them. They always did in scale. I know the guy that runs a company. They're based down in Florida. You know, my guys that reviewing, oh, cool, we got Jacksonville Terminal samples. Yeah. They're in scale containers. Like, why won't they make HO? Jacksonville Terminal has done an HO scale container, 53-foot ocean prototype high cube, corrugated side container, and it is a beauty. Nice. I've got Bruce that works at Spring Creek Model Trains, did a review for me that's going to be in June's Model Railroad News, and he took that container and put it in every manufacturer's well car for fit. So as you read that review, he goes through Walthers, Cato, Scale Trains, all of them to see, okay, it was a little bit tight here. It fit fine in this one. I mean, it's a really neat review. And that is the question that you get. Sure. Like, well, I'm interested in these containers. I bought them and, they don't fit in my Athearn cars. They're a little bit wide or they're a little too long. And so it's a really good review. These containers, they look a little bit pricey. They're $22.95 for singles. They also come in 3-packs for $59.95. But the thing about these, they've got the magnet system. They're kind of importing that from InScale. Now, Bruce in his review said, I'm not sure that HO needs that as much as in, but I found playing with them and doing photography and such, I like they've got the magnet base as well as the little post to hold them together. And that, that maybe is the reason why they're a bit more expensive, but plastic body, the magnets inside them. I really like them. And going back to the Fantasy and Home Roads, there's a 3-pack of world famous Virginia and Ohio.
Right.
Alan McKellen's layout, Allegheny Midland, Tony Coster's layout. And then that Virginia Midland, I'm trying to remember when I saw that, I forget whose or what, if that's somebody else's railroad. I don't remember now on whose that was, but there's a 3-pack of those like famous V&O and Allegheny Midland. There are, of course, a bunch of prototype, American presidents and things like that. And then there's also, and this was when the InScale came out, I was so jealous. There was a Jinx Blue Mopac with the Screaming Eagle. I'm like, oh, if only that was in HO. And there is an HO pack of those now with 2 of the Mopac containers. And then there's also a Brooks. And if you think, well, who is this Brooks Transportation? That's Stan Brooks that owns Jacksonville Terminal. So that would be his home road on that 53-foot container. So all new containers from Jacksonville Terminal. You can find them at jtcmodeltrains.com, and they do sell through dealers, like Spring Creek, other places have those. Again, they have a huge line of InScale, and this is their first HO offering. So, and there is more coming in HO, but that's exciting to see something from them in HO.
So now that they're doing HO, you can be friends with them now?
I can no longer get the box and go, oh, I'll let Shane know we got this whole box of these InScale containers. And or like I say, looking at when they did that Mopac one, like, oh man, that's so cool. I wish I had that in HO. That now I do. So yes, I'm very happy with them.
We now know how the N-scalers feel though, right? When we're seeing great product and they go, do you make it N-scale? No.
No.
N-scale? No.
Yeah.
So we got a little taste of it. We got to live in their shoes for a little bit, but Jackson Terminal has come through for us.
Exactly. I know Nick Molo and the basically the Cadillac level freight cars that he makes in HO scale under the Moloko Trains brand, and he has got a ton of stuff he's working on. And if you follow his social media, Moloko Trains, You've seen he has recently shared early samples of that 50-foot high cube exterior post, both in the waffle side and regular side. I'm really excited about those. He also announced the 50-foot combination door, so it's a plug slider with an offset door setting of Omaha Shop's Union Pacific boxcars. And this I'm really excited to see. And you're like, well, why combo door boxcars? There's a lot of them on the market. There are, but boy, the way he does cars, I think this is going to be one of those, oh, this is how it really should look. It's not just a generic plug slider boxcar. This is the real deal. And he's got 2 different versions of it in the works coming, and a bunch of different road names. They go back to about 1960, so you can get the Be Specific and ship and travel slogans up to We Can Handle It. And there's even a cool green maintenance away car. And all of these, you can find those on molocotrains.com. And his stuff is just exquisite. I'm sure you've got some samples of those green and white boxed Moloko cars. And Nick is a great guy. You know, he lives in, I can't remember if it's New Zealand now or Australia, but he's down under. And I email with him quite a bit on various things. And he is really a fantastic modeler. And it's great to see somebody like that runs a company making these kind of products, because this is, again, such a niche thing, but just superior stuff. So
absolutely
check those out. And those high cube box cars, there's a whole run of those that are on the way, and you can see all that stuff on his website. Now, those Canadian modelers, this is another group I'm just gonna flat out say I get annoyed with. I can't believe how much stuff the Canadian folks buy and get. I mean, it's amazing. Did you see Rapido this past week announced that big wide vision Angus Shops caboose, which they've had in HO for many years, is coming to N-scale, and it'll be lighted. It's going to have exterior marker lights that are working. It'll have interior lighting. They're doing a whole group of both the prototype road names as well as mini what-if road names for those as well. There's a new run of those out in HO scale that for the first time, again, I guess my bias against, like, man, why do these Canadian guys get all these cool, prototype models? There can't be that many of those guys, but boy, they must buy like crazy. I mean, you must walk into a convenience store in Canada and they got like the 5-hour energy drink, beef jerky, and there must be like freight cars sitting there on the counter.
Maybe they're selling them at Tim Hortons. Maybe that's where you can buy all this stuff.
Yeah, you must be able to drive through and get model trains in Canada. I mean, it's unbelievable. But like this Angus Shops caboose, I'd seen them many times over the years, but never had a sample. And I do have a blue and yellow Ontario Northland in HO from this latest run. And the new run in HO has enhanced lighting. And it comes with a little wand that you can control the lighting up on the roof of the model from the outside is how it's controlled. So I am finally adding that begrudgingly to my collection, these Canadian prototypes. It's like, okay, all right, I'll add one of these. But this Angus van, which again, we're going into this, don't start talking bogies and wagons and other stuff, but the Angus van instead of Angus caboose is what it technically is called, was built in Montreal and is a classic wide vision for the Canadian market, and is going to come to N-scale from Rapido Trains.
I'm looking at these pictures right on their website, rapidotrains.com, and such beautiful detail for N-scale. Mm-hmm. Absolutely amazing that the technology has moved so far forward, and great design techniques as well to capture all these great details in such a smaller scale.
I mean, really neat. Rapidotrains.com. The one thing too Rapido did this week, and again, I complain about N-scalers. Did you see the mystery boxes? Did you hear about this?
I did see it, but why don't you tell us about it?
I don't know about it. It's a mystery.
Oh, that's a mystery.
I see there are 3 of them, and the N-scale guys have already gotten to them and bought them out. So N-scale, you're out of luck. But I am still seeing there's a premium mystery box for $249. There is a regular mystery box for $149. And go look, you'll find these under the swag section on Rapido Trains. And they say that, again, it's what you would think. And I've done for Midwest Model Railroad in the Kansas City area, we've done, I don't think, did we call them mystery? Oh yeah, we do call them mystery boxes. I would go shopping and pick out various items, and it would be a certain retail value, but it was available at this price, and you're going to get this car and this tool and this item, but you may not know the road name that you're going to get. So that was kind of the mystery of it, and it was a value. Same thing here that Rapido is doing, that you get this mystery box. They guarantee that it's well over that value of what you're going to pay, the $250 or $150. And there's something fun about those. When I would go shopping and pick that stuff out at like Midwest Model Railroad, that it always amazed me. They'd email me and say, well, we put them up, and within 6 hours, they were all sold out. Wow. It's like, wow, that's cool. But yeah, buying sight unseen, that you get a t-shirt, it says maybe, and other limited items are included in it. Box contains an assortment of Rapido rolling stock. So again, could be very cool. And everybody likes to do something that's, well, I don't know. I just kind of bought it as a surprise.
This might be the model railroading version of the old days of buying a pack of baseball cards, right? You open them up and see what player you got, and you never knew. And hopefully you didn't get too many doubles and maybe a rookie card. So yeah, maybe this is, this might be that. So,
and last but not least, the tangent scale models General American 4500 is a new covered hopper. And you're like, okay, yeah, it's a covered hopper from Tangent Scale Models. They're beautiful. They do a great job. And that was my first thought on them. And then I get to looking. This is their first General American that they've done Pullman standard prototypes, but this is going to be a new group of General American prototypes. I love the road names in this group. I've got the blue Archer Daniels Midland and that gray Burlington with the separate placard for the Burlington Route Herald on the side, that I have both of those for review. There's also a fairly modern Santa Fe and a really neat Chicago Great Western with the Lucky Strike logo. You know, when you say the Lucky Strike logo, you almost have to explain that to people now. Mm-hmm. Because it's Lucky Strike cigarettes, but who immediately, at the time when the Chicago Great Western was around, you say Lucky Strike and it's like, oh yeah. And now you'd probably have to stop and explain that to a lot of younger guys, like, well, that was a cigarette, or probably still is, but yeah. Anyway, but this is a new model. Early to mid 1960s was when it was built. There is an undecorated kit, and if you've never built an undecorated tangent kit, I have not, but I have several in my collection because it's fun just to see all the components and find out what is plastic, what is wire, what is metal that go into them. It's a really neat thing, and I think probably the best add-on, you can get a 24-pack of little plastic pigeons to put on the roof. And when you've been out rail fanning, those grain hoppers tend to be great feeders for some of our feathered friends. And you do see the birds hanging around up there, dining on stuff that gets scattered on the roof. So I thought that was hilarious that he not only did this car, but has added little, and they are undecorated pigeons. So you will have to paint them.
I want to stop and give credit to Tangent for an absolutely, you sent me the link and I clicked on it. So I'm on tangentscalemodels.com and I'm looking at the pages, Greenville 86 high cube double plug door boxcar. What an excellent job. I mean, the map that showed you the routing of that car, they're showing you what the different details are. They're showing you in all the prototype photos. What an excellent resource that Tangent has done along with the car. They're not just selling you the car, they're telling you all about it. And if you want to know everything you've never wanted to know and more about 86 foot, it's all here. It's amazing. Great job by the team at Tangent for putting all this information available to the consumer.
David that runs the company, I mean, spectacular. Dan Kohlberg works with him on a lot of things. And again, these are guys like Nick Molo that this is how they do the hobby, and I've said that of the magazines and stuff I do. People say, well, what do you have a model railroad? Do you like to operate? Do you like to, it's like, I do magazines. Mm-hmm. Like I like to cover new releases. I like to do hobby history. I talk about prototypes, and I'm fortunate to have 3 magazines I work on that do that. So that is my outlet for the hobby, or that's what I like to pursue. And again, like Tangent and Moloko, again, I think, and as you find like Jim Wiggin at Athearn, there's hobbyists in all those companies, but like Tangent, Moloko, they basically are modern examples of hobbyists that wanted these products and said, well, I'm just going to make them. I'm going to start a company. And Tangent, both of those companies have been around forever, 10 plus years, and Moloko even longer, going back to their caboose details and things they first offered. But yeah, Tangent is just, these high cubes are beautiful cars. And, Chris Palmieri at Home Shops had a run of these Tangent cars done, and they are spectacular. I know you know Chris. I love what he's doing with Home Shops. He's got Tangent. He's got Exact Rail. He has several companies that are bringing out products that he's doing with the freelance and the proto-freelance railroads. And that group of high cubes that he has right now are just spectacular. And I think his website is homeshops.net.
You got it.
And you can see all of those there. But, these Greenville cars, if you say, well, I don't have the curves to operate those, they're beautiful display cars, if nothing else. I have stacks of them. And they will turn on 22 or 24 radius curves. And they are just amazing. And Chris's stuff at Home Shops, I'm sure you've seen some of them or have some of them. Aren't they nicely done?
I absolutely love hearing and talking with Chris Palmieri. We had him here on Around the Layout and did an interview with him, and he's due back because he just keeps coming up with these really great products, and just an outstanding imagination. And in the freelance world, he's really brought a lot of these great railroads forward with this project he's doing with Home Shops. So always exciting to see new products from him. And he picks some really good manufacturers to work with to produce high quality, and they really are. Although I did joke with Chris that if I bought the set at 86, I would hook them together and I wouldn't be able to move them on my railroad. They'd be locked. But no, it's great. And I know a lot of guys do run these 86-foot box cars, and this gives you a great option, whether you're buying prototype or with Home Shops buying the freelance, or a mix of the two. It gives you a great conversation piece to talk about when people come to see your layout.
Well, boy, Ray, there's zillions of more stuff that I could talk about, but we've about run out of time. ModelRailroadNews.com. Go to ModelTrainResource.com as well. I'm getting that site back up. And right now, if you go to Model Train Resource, and then across the top, you'll see Home, Yardmaster Notes, which is kind of new items, a newsletter sign up, and archives. I'm getting the archives for all my old hobby history sites back. So again, go to modeltrainresource.com, go to that archives page. If you register there and fill that information out, everybody loves stickers.
Love stickers.
I have if you go to the page, you'll see the red logo that was designed for Model Train Resource. I have the first 50 of those stickers for your listeners to go to the archives page, sign up. That way you have free access to start seeing the archives as they come back up of old catalogs, old product listings, companies from like Athearn to AHM to Tyco to Cato. All will be covered there as they were years ago on my old HO resource. So go log in at Model Train Resource to the archives page, register, and then you can log in then. And when we have that information, I'm going to go through the first 50 and everyone gets a sticker. And out of that first 50, the one new product that I didn't talk about, and Lauren James up at Otter Valley Railroad, I know would say, oh, you didn't mention my new car. He just released a beautiful model of that HO scale NSC trash gondola. I have from him a swag bag with like keychains, stickers, pin, a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to throw in one of his HO cars. And out of that group of 50, I'm going to pick somebody out, and you'll get the sticker, and you're also going to get this Otter Valley Railroad trash HO scale trash gondola.
Wow, so that's a good one. I've got mine down on the layout, the NSC 6400. Yeah. It's a beautiful car. Lauren and his team have done an excellent job, so that's going to be a big win. So make sure you get over there and get yourself signed up.
And those are available from Otter Valley Railroad, which is OVRtrains.com is his website. It's his hobby shop. They do tons of mail order. They're located there in Canada. They ship everywhere. I buy stuff from him quite a bit. And as I say, he sent me this group of stuff with stuff to give away on the podcast here. So excited for that. But please do that. And I think we need to circle back and do this again.
I think we do. With all these releases coming out, with all this news in the hobby, let's come back next month. Let's do it again, Tony.
Awesome, Ray. Thanks for having me. It was great getting to talk to Jim Wiggin at Athearn, and good to visit with you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Around the Layout. Learn more about today's show on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Around the Layout. Show your support by becoming an operating crew member at patreon.com/Around the Layout podcast. Past episodes and more can be found on our website, aroundthelayout.com. And send us your feedback, aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us around the layout.